This video is for anyone that struggles to finish their songs and get them released. Welcome back to Weekly Wins. Today I want to demonstrate something that I learned recently, which was that done is better than perfect. And I'm going to demonstrate this by trying to film this in one take. I'm going to do some minimal editing on this video today, and I'm going to prioritize getting it out for Saturday rather than making it perfect. But first, let's have a little look at some of the comments from last week's show. So just as a reminder, the episode last week we were talking about improving the quality of music and your visuals, and I used the example of Saev. He's a really good producer, but his visuals are also really good on Instagram. And I just wanted to show that people seem to agree with what we were talking about last time. So Ghost in the Shell said Instagram growth is so important these days, much needed. And then San Mateo said that this is so true. Whenever I land on an account like the example that you gave, there's a noticeable difference. And I think that's just a really nice takeaway from people's reactions from last week's episode, because we were talking about how if we improve the quality of our music and our brand, our visuals, things like that, then people do take notice and it does look good. So it just backs up that it's something that is really cool to focus on. So thank you for those comments. Okay, let's get stuck into the main part of this video. So what I wanted to talk about today is one of the big producer struggles that we all get, which is trying to finish songs and get them released. And I think there's two things that kind of get in our way of doing that. One of them is perfectionism, and that's when we're going in on hours and hours of work on tiny details, really focusing on sort of every little point and overthinking it to make it absolutely perfect. And then the other thing is time. How much time do you actually have to produce? So any two of those things can probably limit the amount that we're going to be able to finish songs easily and get them released. And if someone has both those things, if they have limited time and they're being a bit perfectionist about their work, then that's, it's really going to limit their kind of progress on each song. And I think one of the main issues is that there's so much to do. So we've got to think about a song, make an idea, pull it into a full arrangement, produce it, mix and master it, create a demo, send it off, get some feedback, do some more tweaks, listen to it on loads of different speakers. And then even when it's ready for release, we want to get a decent release strategy, we want to get some promotion out there. There's so much to do that I think it's overwhelming really. And then also there's the expectation on ourselves. So we want to make the whole thing great. We don't just want the song to be great and the promotion to, look terrible, or vice versa. So it's like, because we're proud of what we're doing, we want to make everything great. And so then that'll push us to kind of try and do our best, which is a good thing. But there's a line between doing our best and trying to make it as good as we can, and just not being able to finish it and call it a day and say that's done. And if I didn't use that phrase, done is better than perfect, last year, I wouldn't have released my first song, which was called Meant to Be, that was played on BBC Radio 1. Dance with Jaguar, Sirius XM Chill. It's over 50,000 streams on Spotify now. I also wouldn't have finished an EP that I did with a record label that's now on 120,000 Spotify streams. And that's just a simple, kind of small example of how this phrase works. It helps you to just finish stuff and move on to the next thing. But what done is better than perfect doesn't mean is it doesn't mean you don't have to put effort in. It doesn't mean you don't have to try your best. And I think that's really key, because a lot of us, we want to do the best we can. We want our songs to sound great. We want our visuals to look good. And with all those songs that I did last year, even though I managed to say, right, that's done, let's finish and move on, I still did as much as I possibly could to make it as best as I could. I think it's just noticing when to call it a day. And the second thing I wanted to highlight in this video is how to not overthink everything, because that's really the thing that's going to stop us from finishing things and moving on to the next project. So today, for example, with me doing this video a little bit quicker and trying to not do multiple takes and not doing as much editing, I could start to overthink how I look, how I sound, how it looks visually for you, what the viewers are thinking. But that's all what's going on in my head, and it's unlikely to be going on in your head. I mean, comment below, let me know if it is, because that would be kind of interesting to know. But yeah, I think we have to remember that about music as well, is that, yeah, it's got to sound as good as we can make it, and we do need to push ourselves, but we also need to know that, not to get too caught up in the imperfections. And also imperfections can sometimes be the thing that makes something stand out and be unique, whether it's music or visuals. So we can't be too afraid to, let some imperfections show and make everything sort of perfect, because it can often go more the other way towards a bit more robotic and generic. So it's a fine line, but it's something really interesting to think about. So the takeaway tips for this video is to always try your best and always try to improve. I think that's still at the core of what we want to be aiming for. But remember the phrase, done is better than perfect. And it's all about noticing when the time is up. So if you're finding that you're procrastinating, or the song sounds good and it's pretty much done, but there's a tiny detail that you're either getting worked up and stressed about, or that you're just spending absolutely ages on, and you don't necessarily feel like it's sort of pushing the song any further, then it's probably time to call it a day. And if you're still unsure, you can always just leave it for a bit and come back to it. I did that recently with a song. I was struggling with something about it. I kind of wanted to call it a day and say this is done, but there was something that was still kind of niggling me that I didn't like about it. So all I did was I left it for about 3 days. I did something else, maybe worked on some other projects, and then I came back to it. And often if you come back to something, it's easy to make that decision, because you're not sort of caught up in the moment. You can decide, oh, I do need to fix that thing actually. Or sometimes you come back to it and you're like, that's fine, I don't know what I was worrying about. Okay, that's time up for me today. I'm going to finish there, but I hope this has helped you to try not to overthink too much. Let's get our songs finished and get things out there. Let's wrap up these projects and just not overthink it too much. And yeah, I'll see you on next week's show.